check 2. This is it. Welcome to the Cannabis Coffee Hour with your host, me, Rob Cantrell. Oh yeah, we're back. We're doing it. I have an exciting guest, a great guest, hilarious, funny, smart, intelligent, cool, hip. She's written 2 books. One that I just finished called Tell Everybody on This Train I Love Them. She's also on NPR, Wait, Don't Tell Me. She has a show at Littlefield here in Brooklyn, a venue called Littlefield. The show's called Butterboy on Mondays. It's dope. It's awesome. She's amazing. She's from Ireland. This is going to be a trip. This is going to be cool, audio and visual. And let's say hello to Maeve Higgins, everybody.
Hi, hello, Rob.
Maeve Higgins. Hi, Maeve.
Hi. What a nice introduction. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for being on. Thanks for being on the Cannabis Coffee Hour.
No, I'm delighted. I was doing, like you mentioned, Butterboy, which is like how we know each other from that comedy show. And as the host, you have to introduce people. And I just think I'm not good at it. Like, I'm too selfish. And so I'm often just like, I find this next person very funny, as if it's like about me.
Yeah. I mean, you saw the ego pop in there when I say your host and then I say myself. Anytime that you say yourself in a third person's a little, centered. But at the same time, I do like the idea of showbiz, like, let's get the party going.
I think so. You kind of have to do it like because you have to remember, like, we're entertainers, like, I know comedians are really self-important. I speak for myself and like that. And sometimes I think it gets lost that, we're actually the deal that we're entering into. If somebody starts a podcast or comes to a show, they just want to be entertained. Like, it's wild to me that, we think it's anything more than that.
Yeah, because it's just so hard to do. Stand-up is the easiest thing, but also the hardest thing at the same time. It's very zen in that way. Like, you're like, I'll just go up there. I've been goofy my whole life. I'll just go up there and goof it up. And then you go up there and you're like, oh, this is in real time. I got to figure this all out. So it takes a while to figure it out. And that figuring out is very internal. Like, it's very, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that. Oh, they can't wait for this one coming. So when you throw an intro in there, it's almost like you got to go back to a whole other gear. When I'm doing stand-up or going into material, the number one thing is I'm trying to get the material. I'm trying to be funny, trying to listen to everything that's going on. But then, like you said, I have a problem with hosting. I've forgotten names. I've done everything you can think of, I've done. But I also have nailed it a bunch of times. I've just been doing it for so long that I never get mad if somebody messes up an intro of mine.
I sometimes do. I mean, like, if you get a very bad intro, or like if someone does some like really strange material in front of you and like lets all the air out of the room, and then you have to you're starting from such a back foot. Like, there's days that I'm like, cool, like, this is so hard, like, let's see if I can dig my way out of this one. But then more days I'm just like, oh, can you just like set it up nicely?
Totally.
Just like, and I don't know what the best kind of intro is. Like, when I was starting off, I really liked when people were like, okay, like, she's new, like, she's useless and like, don't expect too much. Cause then you'd be like, okay, well, at least if I'm in any way competent, they'll be relieved and happy. Because then it's like, if you get like a big showbiz, her from blah, blah, then you come out, you're like, hi.
And that first joke is always 50-50. You're like, even no matter how good you are, like, your first joke, you're still like swinging the bat and like, I hope this connects, And
Totally.
So you never know. So if they give you a big thing, and sometimes I think the best sets that I have always loved doing stand-up comedy is if I'm kind of tanking in the beginning and then I win them And then at the end, you get a good dismount and get out of there. The worst is starting off strong and then ending bad.
That's so true, actually. And I've been doing stand up for so many years. And every single time I do it, I'm like, oh, Maeve, remember, you need an ending. Because I'm much more of a like peter out, slink away style. And I never have that big closer. I've never managed to do that. I don't know. I don't actually know how to do that.
Yeah, you need a family friendly bit that lasts about 15 minutes with some sound effects. And if you have a call and response 80s rap song at the end and sound cue, that's it. Then you're closing shows. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Doing headlining, I don't know if headlining's anymore, but yeah, I started in 1999 and I got on the very first season of Last Comic Standing within 3 years. And I was living in San Francisco. I didn't even have an agent or manager, and I was top 10. So everybody, like within, like it went from 0 to 1,000 all at once.
Yeah.
And I had to headline shows. And I had to headline these shows. And sometimes I would just tank because you do have to have that. But the thing about, I think the evolution of stand-up's moving a lot faster and the crowd is getting a lot smarter. But in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, you had to 30 minutes of material, check, drop, and then bring them all home at the end. And, that's how you would do it, and but there was a point in my career that I released a hip hop album. Well, I did a couple songs and I had this old beat machine. And it was an analog Yamaha DJ-X, and it wasn't not like looping or Reggie Watts or any of that. This was just like this funky old machine that made these like trance hip hop beats that ecstasy kids would do in the 90s. Like they would just listen to this and stare at a disco ball. And I used to play that at the end. And let me tell you, it would crush every time. So that's how I kind of cheated.
And did you rap over it or something?
Yeah. I had a song about laundry.
Okay.
I had a song about laundry. I had a song about laundry and and I just got married and I had another song. These are songs that are out there. I just put out like a greatest hits album that I self-released myself, but one was called Married and Shit, and it was all about being married and shit.
Yeah.
Then the other one was Laundry, and then there was Coffee and Weed, which I did with Art Barker. That's how that was like some of my loves. But that was really fun. Like I wouldn't mind if the heat comes on again and I have to headline super shows like that. Closing with a song is always fun.
Yeah, and it's like it's almost an automatic response. Like it's almost like a wait, what's that thing when a Pavlovian response, that like you hear a song and you just clap and cheer at the end. Yeah. Whereas like with the bit, it's not as easy, especially if it doesn't land, because it's just kind of like, okay, are they done? That's it? But like with a song, it's very clear. Like everyone's like, okay, I understand what's happening. Like we're being, and again, it's so entertaining, like it's like pure fun and silly and like somebody making an effort.
I know. And it is a bit hacky, I am a hardcore stand-up and I like one-liners and I do all that and I live for the game. And so there was a
Wait, you live for the game?
Not live for the game, but you know how stand-up purists, if I was a snob, and there's a part of me that is a snob, like, oh, that is some hacky shit. You're
playing a song at the end.
You're going to break out the guitar and play a song at the end, man. You just got to write a new bit.
No, whatever people have a good time with, that's the job.
That's where I am. Yeah, that's the job these days.
And like I wouldn't so you think maybe that isn't stand-up, like it's not pure stand-up?
I think it's a little, just a tiny, it's a little bit of the cheating of, and this is like I said, like purist type thought, like doing 45 minutes strong with a strong closer. Like in terms of like doing an hour, and I don't think hours I've heard like word on the street, people aren't even watching hours, but back in the day, like if you had to do an hour, a lot of it was, you had to have a couple strong openers. You had to be able to do a little crowd work during the check stop.
Yeah.
You had to do a bit that was better than all the others that in a story was always good. because you kind of bring everything in and there's a theme and whammo, you know, you landing. If you're doing a gymnastics parallel bars, you're sticking a landing when you got that. And so the song, like you said, there is that. The thing, like, even if you have a cheesy song with the guitar, they'll clap at the end. It doesn't matter if it is mediocre funny or really funny. At the end of the guitar, people will be like, "Oh, that sounds good.
Well done. You did a little song. Thank you." I mean, there's also like really great younger stand-ups now, like Marsha Belsky and like tons of like kind of musical theater style, like subverting that. And I guess they're stand-ups as well, you know, like they just mix it and they don't feel any pressure to, I think, I mean, I'm like speaking for them. I don't know. I've just seen a lot of,
I think experimenting with art is exactly the way to go and forward thinking. And I think when you conceptualize something in terms of like, this is the only way you could do it, you know, you're really putting a box into it, and we're moving forward. Like life is moving forward, and there's no real container for anything because everything's just flowing.
Yeah.
So you got to find out what it's kind of like. I was listening something about the London punk scene in the 70s. It was actually Billy Idol on XM last night. And he was talking about how they were down with reggae so much. And they were talking about like, they would go to the reggae bars and the Jamaican DJs would play like they would play these dub versions where they would just, you know, take that bass of like a Bob Marley song and cut out all the vocals. So you're just grooving to the bass in an echo chamber. And, you know, they were, and he was saying like the punk kids liked it so much because it was just so creative. Like they took the norm and was like, okay, we're going to take the norm and really, you know, and whereas purists would be like, why are you messing up this beautiful song? You know?
Yeah, definitely. And it's like, you know, it's that eternal question as well. Like, is there something new really that you can do? Or do you always just take, you know, things that have already been done and just make a new version of them?
Yes.
It's very like, it's very, I don't know, like individualistic and egotistic to think like, I am creating something from whole cloth here, you know. It's like you're really not like you're just not. And if you say you're doing that, you're erasing someone else's work, or you know, or you just like don't know the history of your form.
Yep. And how, you know, and I think being an artist or getting in that headspace, you do get more internal and stuff. And that's what's cool about living in New York is like you're just always seeing how many people there really are in this world and how many cultures there really are in this world. And you got to be like, hey, there's so many different ways to think. There's so many different angles going on right now. And yeah, you're not really, it's all been said, it's all been done, no matter how demonic and angelic, it's all been, you know, as we've been around for so long, all this stuff has been done before. So it's exciting, and that's I that kind of leads into, because what I mean, I want to write a book. I got it in me.
You do?
Yeah, I do. I will, if I live long enough, I will. Because I know how hard it is, and I know how much work it is. But I was an English major, creative writing major in college, and you know, there is a sense like, why should I write a book? It's all been, it's all been written before. Did you face that being a writer? Did you start as a writer and then into stand-up, or did stand-up give you the confidence to be like, oh, I could knock out a book?
It was stand-up first for me, and for many years, and then it was kind of I mean, they're certainly related. Like I would write funny things, and then I started to like write like opinion columns for newspapers and stuff like that. But and certainly with opinion and like with lots of different forms of journalism too, you of course you can talk yourself out of it by saying, oh, like who wants to hear your take?
Yeah.
And I don't really have a good answer for that, except like if you have that itch, like you should probably scratch it, because otherwise like it just won't leave you. It's like it's like very hard to write, but it's like harder not to, because it's like kind of torturous if you're thinking, oh, I wish I could do this, I mean to do this, I will do this, and then you don't. Like that's a tough place to be in, I think.
Yeah, and that leads to people drinking in bars and
yeah,
having cirrhosis of the liver, and because they never went for they never went for it.
But like, so does writing. So I don't know what the right answer is. There's certainly plenty self-destructive, like alcoholic, but writers too.
I know,
but yeah, I mean, any form of self-expression that you can figure out is probably healthy for you. Whether or not you want to put it out into the world is kind of a different thing. But any kind of way to get your thoughts and feelings across and to understand them better yourself, it often helps to try and externalize them in some way, whatever, if that's music, if that's comedy, if it's anything, collage, painting, anything. Dance, yeah, for sure. I interviewed I saw David Byrne's show on Broadway.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen that?
I watched it.
It's also on HBO. Yeah, I
loved it.
Isn't it wonderful? American Utopia.
American Utopia. His song structure, his style. Even when he was, I'm old enough to remember when they were on the radio and it sounded kind of like, interesting pop, kind of new wave stuff. But now that I revisit it and listen to the lyrics and just the structure of the song, like it's just so much different. And what I love about him is he's funky. As a white dude, he is funky. Like, it kind of has an upbeat, and it has a little bit of awkwardness to it, but at the same time it looks cool, and that is a magic trick.
Yeah, I mean, it is magic. He also like has an incredible choreographer called Annie B. Parson, and then one of the dancers is who I wanted to talk to from the show. Tendai Kumba, her name is, and like I talked to her all about like what it was like being in the show and what it was like expressing herself through movement. Because when I watched the show, it was like, yes, David Byrne, incredible. All the musicians, like incredible. Yeah. But like, it was her that I could really like feel things coming through her. Like she was like emoting and expressing herself through dance in a way that like I have never done, and I don't think I can, or like I don't think it's like my like it doesn't work that way for me. So I was so fascinated, with her, and like I talked to her about like, how do you do that? And she said like, since you're tiny, like you like dance, you're like dancing with your mom in the kitchen, and she says it's like her mother tongue, and it happens when like you're most relaxed, when you're very comfortable. You're like connected to your home space. And she was very adamant that like that you can express yourself through dance, even about like sad and kind of historic things. And she uses like West African dance in the show in American Utopia, that of course David Byrne is thrilled to promote and to have up there on stage. And she says it's a form of like bringing peace to her community, which I was like blown away by, that like you could do all that with on a stage in Broadway, like by dancing, by entertaining people, and at the same time get to express yourself and get to like pass along those feelings so that others can, feel them too.
I know it's an energy, and it's and it is one of the most vulnerable things you can do is dance in front of somebody. And as a man, it's very, very, I don't think anybody's really tough unless they could, if as a dude, if they could dance. And I know a lot of people don't like that and stuff like that, but I grew up breakdancing. I was born in 1972, hip hop, 83.
Yeah.
I was into sports. My mind was all over the place. And then this music came from outer space that I didn't even understand. And I was down in the basement popping and locking by myself for hours.
How did you learn though? Because you didn't have YouTube.
Didn't have YouTube. The reason I'm here, if you ever want to see a great American film, it's called Beat Street. And it's about a graffiti writer and a break dancer. And it was actually Sidney Poitier was the producer. And it was just like super high-end major film. But it was all in New York, and it was shot gritty and cool. And it had like the first appearance of Dougie Fresh. It had all this stuff in the South Bronx, and I watched it on loop. I would watch it completely on loop. And in terms of hip hop, in terms of my age, the school of thought was Breaking was a movie, and then there was Beat Street. Now Breaking was L.A. and California. I like California, but if you're going to talk hip hop, if you're talking coffee and espresso, if you want the real deal, it's in New York. It's always been in New York. The subways, the art. For me, it's like the bubble letters, the colorful, the dance, the futuristic beats, like all of that combined into a universe. Like it was like going into another planet. But that is, I'll tell you, I was the best break dancer. I grew up in Washington, D.C. In the 70s. But we moved to the Appalachian Mountains in Southern Virginia, a town of 5,000, hardcore rednecks, like punch you in the face for reading a book type. Like I grew up with some rough, but blue collar, played football, good people, hilarious. But I didn't fit in. I was into breakdancing. Everybody was into country music and heavy metal. But the town next door had an orphanage, and the best breakdancer in like 4 counties was called Stormin' Norman. And he was 17 years old. And I was like 12. And my mom got me breakdance lessons from Stormin' Norman over at the orphanage. And he had a rep in the county as just this best breakdance. He had a boombox. His parents, I think he was from New York or whatever. Like this is very early on. But I remember going to the orphanage and he would teach me getting down the floor, all this stuff. And my mom would give him just like $20 in cash. And that's how I learned. And from there, it was my dad. We can go into it, but I have an album that I tell the story about, but my dad just passed away in a car accident. And I was just so sad. And then there was no way to express myself. And through dance, it's physical. It's much like yoga. Like if you're going through a hard time mentally, the best thing to do is to go out for a walk, to get your body moving, get your body. And then you're like, yo, my body's fresh. Yo, I have a human form. This is amazing.
You almost forget, don't you? When you're really sad, it doesn't feel like you have a body. It feels like you're just this like feeling.
Yeah, you're just that dark cloud of thoughts and memories and all this stuff just like swarming in your head. And dance is a great, cannabis is a great way to get out of depression. But even if you're bad at it.
Wait, do you think it is?
We can go into the cannabis coffee hour. Yeah, for me, I would say for my personal experience and what I've seen on this podcast, that I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and it was a very alcohol, cigarette. I was drinking beer when I was 13, smoking cigarettes, hanging underneath the bridge, the whole thing, hanging with the bad kids. And pot gave me, when I got to college, I didn't smoke it when I was young, but when I got to college, it was just even more drinking and more partying. And I enjoyed it, but I was just fucking making mistakes and pissing my bed. The whole 9, you learn. But pot was just like an angle that I took to kind of get away from that. And then you get older as a dude or a girl, you get into your 20s, and then cocaine comes around and harder drugs come around into that, social party environment. And I always just leaned into cannabis, and it kind of steered me away from where I think I would have gone that route. So and then when I went to San Francisco in my early 20s and I started doing stand-up comedy there, I just used it as a survival method. Instead of drinking, because I would just get these bad hangovers from drinking. You know, I would just get like and I would get depressed. My emotions would drop. Where cannabis, I would get more positive. I think I still do have intense anxiety, and cannabis would just cut it like a hot knife through butter. Like it would just woof, cut it right out. But it can flip. It could flip. You know, it could cause even more anxiety and more self-negative thoughts. I read your chapter in your book. Tell everybody on this train that I love them. Maeve has a hilarious chapter in this, how she accidentally ate a whole box of
sorry,
chocolates.
Wait, just as you were saying that, the connection froze, and I was like, it's happening again. Like, somehow, even by talking about it, I'm going back to that like day when I ate a whole box.
It's some trauma.
I mean, it's so common. That's a funny thing. Like we were saying earlier, like, oh, should I even write this? Like everyone has already said this. It is so common now. Like animals, kids, everyone is like accidentally eating edibles. And it's largely harmless. You know, it's like a few bad hours or whatever. But yeah, for me, it was definitely like a bad experience. It was a very dark day. Actually, like week. It took almost a full week before I felt normal again. After I ate like 80 milligrams of THC, and you know, that's coming from somebody who never smokes or does any edibles at all. So it was very intense and unexpected. And like I missed a flight that I was supposed to get. You know, it was like really messy.
Yeah, it can get really dark and strange if you're not used to it.
Yeah.
Edibles is like it gets into your bloodstream and gets into your brain, and there's no real way of working it out. You just have to ride it out because it's in there. But I would say I would equate it like if you didn't drink alcohol and then you drank a whole bottle of Jim Beam at one time. And you know how it would be kind of, you know, you would be drunk and pissed, and you know, that's the terms of edibles. I would say, you know, you got to be very cannabis. I think I should lead as an example, and nobody really listens to anybody. I think you need to be more of an example. I'm trying to get to that point where I'm not judging or any of that, where I'm just like, hey, I'm doing my thing and this is working for me. But yeah, I guess what I was just saying is like, yeah, you have to be, I always say with cannabis, like I would wait till you're 18 or 21 because your brain needs to form, you know, you're messing with your brain a little bit. And then, you know, from there, you just have to be slightly cautious these days, you know, the THC and the edibles that, you know, if it works for you, it works for you. But we can get into cannabis a little bit. So you've never smoked pot.
No, I mean, growing up in Ireland, there's hash, as you know, like, you know, that like brown sticky. And I always thought it was like so gross. I didn't like the feeling, like the burning feeling when you smoke it. And it didn't really like do much for my head or anything. I do remember like in college being like, oh, this music does sound better. Like I was like, I'm more interested in this music. But it was very slight because I already love music so much. So, you know, I was sort of like, and I never like learned how to roll a joint, which like I do remember my best friend who I lived with for many years was just always used to laugh at that and be like, oh my God, that's such like a girl doesn't know how to roll a joint. And she just like she never buys it and she smokes it when she feels like it. And like, I
know a lot of dudes like that too.
Right. So no, it wasn't really like in, you know, in my life at all. And then I guess like moving here 10 years ago, I guess it's like weed is different and people would get like very giggly and stuff when they smoke cannabis here versus when it's hash. This is just from what I've observed. I don't know if this is right, but when it's hash, people don't really get like giggly and high. They get more like introspective and like dreamy and floaty. Whereas here I noticed that people were like high, like in that way that they were like, they just like elevated, like everything was like more up. Whereas hash seemed to be a little bit more downer. And then, yeah, it was just a friend gave me a box of chocolates that I didn't know. She didn't know either. Like it was like a regift situation. And then, I was in New Brunswick in Massachusetts like a couple of weeks back with some friends, and they've had legal cannabis for a really long time. And you go into the store and everything's like very beautifully presented, and I was like, oh, I guess like I'll try some of these like ones that you take before you go to sleep. But I feel like because I had that experience where I totally was tripping, I was tripping because I had so much THC that like now my brain is really like, oh, not this again. Like I feel like I'm sensitive to it. I don't know if that's true.
That makes sense. And I think it's not for everybody. I think everybody's brain is wired different. And that's where I come from, the non-judgment. Like, if somebody wants to drink or do coke or any of that shit, it's like, it's kind of on them to figure it out what works for them. Same as diet. If you're going to eat meat or not eat meat, like, I don't think one way is the only way. Like, it's never been, there's just too many people. But I was talking to somebody, like, in every section of society, there are the pot smokers, whether it's it's these people or upper class, lower class, black, white, Asian, like everybody, there's always like this 20% that just loves weed that are like, it works for them. And I think I've grown into that. Like, that's the path I would like to take. And that's how I would like to grow old and hang out on the porch, pulling bong hits and petting my cat. And, but at the same time, it's like anything, and you got to respect it and watch it. But I appreciate your honesty, and it does fascinate me about Ireland. I wanted to talk about, so what about cigarettes? What was the first time you smoked cigarettes? Like Ireland, I think of Irish bars, I think of pints, and I think of, my brother-in-law is straight from Scotland, played in punk bands. My sister met him in Madrid when she was teaching. So I have an international vibe with my fam. But yeah, he's gonna be smoking like he just smokes cigarettes, dude. That's just what he does. There's no way he's gonna drop it.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's such a commitment. They've made it so hard now. Like I did smoke.
But in Ireland, is everybody hacking butts all day still?
No, truly. The smoking ban came in there early. Like it was one of the first countries in Europe. And I think it probably was around like 2005 or 6, because I had just started to do stand-up then. And it was like right around then, it was like such a change. Because like the bars used to be, like you mentioned, like everyone with pints and a fag and like and a cigarette and like just smoking their brains out. And there would be clouds and clouds of smoke on the ceiling. And this was totally normal. Yeah. And then I remember, because it was like where we work, right? Like stand-ups work there. So it was kind of like, oh shit, now I'm just like, even though at the time I smoked myself, but I was like, I'm definitely like inhaling way more smoke because I'm like in a bar every night for hours. Because, when you start out, you always like watch everyone you hang out and, it's like such a big part of your life. And then the ban came, like no more smoking inside. Oh my God, the smell of all the pubs was so disgusting. Like, I don't know if that happened here, but I just remember like everyone was doing these like disgusting Guinness farts and like everyone, the bars
would cloud the farts.
Yeah, there was no cloud like hiding the horror that really happens in pubs. And like it just seemed so like you could see everything clearer. And that was depressing as well. Like, I think there's a reason all those old movies are so beautiful, because like everyone is in this haze of like cigarette smoke and like, smog created by like different factories or whatever. All of this is bad, but it did make things look and smell a bit more bearable.
Yeah. I mean, you would come home from one of those nights and you would just smell your clothes and it would just be,
oh my God. And your hair and like, yeah. And definitely that thing you said about like, oh, there's always a certain section of the population that's like gonna smoke cannabis. Like, I think the same was true for cigarettes. I don't know if it still is, but it was always like, okay, now all the fun people have just left the table because like they're going outside to smoke cigarettes. And it was always just like, oh, okay, so you want to be in here with the, and it wasn't, and there's something about like the act of going outside made it like illicit and also like social, because you would go out to the smoking area and you'd end up like talking to other groups, or like if somebody was like, if you felt like there's a cute person over there, that was a really good excuse to like mingle and blend with them. And yeah, there's something still romantic about cigarette smoking. I don't smoke. I haven't for years now, but I still do think like, I still like, oh, Spain. I mean, oh my God. I just think it's so elegant. You see like all these like young parents and the babies like asleep in the stroller. It's like 10 p.m. and they're out, you know, on some kind of a pier and like a beautiful Spanish fishing village, and they just like light up a cigarette. I'm just like, you're the coolest. I can't help it.
I know it is cool and it's something to do, and it's focus use. But I will say, like cigarettes and alcohol, I always felt it aged me. Like I could feel it kind of like
drying you out.
Yeah, kind of drying me out. Whereas cannabis always felt like I was getting younger, and it was massaging my brain and massaging. Not that
well, you do seem like you definitely read a lot younger than you. Yeah, so maybe that's the trick.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do think it brings down your blood pressure. I don't think it's for everybody.
Yeah,
I do think growing old, what I've noticed, if you look at Cheech and Chong or Snoop Dogg, like these guys aren't aging, whereas cigarettes and beer and cigarettes will age you quick, you know, and then you throw cocaine in there, you know, 35, you're looking 68, you know.
You think it's because cannabis like makes people smile and relax? I mean, that is kind of what keeps you stress free as well. Like stress is a big, you know.
Yeah, and I have.
Although it is a stimulant, right? Like I can't tell.
Sometimes it brings on the stress, and they're all different. But I will say it does. I don't know. It does snap me out of the funk sometimes. If I'm really in my head and I'm thinking, oh God, Donald Trump's gonna kill everybody. The planet's gonna melt. Oh my God, why am I even doing this? And I hit some herb and I stare at a tree. You know, I'm just like, I think it's a little bit of connecting to nature. And I don't think it's for me. And I do think, like, if you want to talk about, you know, the green qualities, you know, you can make plastic out of cannabis. You can make clothing out of cannabis. They're all talking about sweatshops and cheap fashion and, you know, supply chain. I do think, like, if it was grown and not used to get high, but used as, you know, as cotton was, or as
like, you mean hemp?
Yeah, hemp. Hemp can make the strongest clothing. The parachutes in World War II were all made out of hemp. They're stronger than anything. You can make plastic out of hemp. Like we could change like there is an earth quality to it that I think the planet is calling. And I also think there's a pacifist quality to it that as aggressive and testosterone pumped as I was as a 80s, 90s young male, you know, it kind of took that I always say I've been reading some that will to kill, that way to like, I gotta dominate, I gotta like weed cuts that out, you know. So I kind of it kind of chilled me out, but at the same time, the flip side is that it's like the word assassin came from Hashin, is what they say, is like the original assassins, and I guess we're all hash fiends, and they were very they would kill people while being very high. So I don't know. Yeah, I think to everything there's a darkness and a lightness, and you can use things.
But I just can't imagine like being an assassin. That strikes me as you have to be like very organized and like very kind of nimble. And
I think if you smoke pot, for me, I do end up I start cleaning right away. I start organizing because it gets you right in the moment. And the only real truth is this moment. That's truth. All the other is bullshit. It's just thoughts. So So cannabis will get you like, oh, I gotta kill this person.
I need to get it done. Like I can't get distracted.
I got my blow dart. I got the toad poison. I'm gonna put the dart in the toad poison. Here I go. I just need to hit my hash pipe when I get back, and I'll be good. And
I like your method of assassination, Rob. That's really funny.
Yeah, some toad.
Yeah. It's like, oh, they'll never know it was a comedian. A blow dart and some toad poison.
That's it is. But that swings us into my other favorite thing, coffee. Now, where are you at? You live in Brooklyn, so, and I know I read from your book, you do you still enjoy? Like, I'm wavering right now. I used to go through 2 French presses. And my doctor was like, you got to slow down, kid. There's
like 1 cup French presses?
No, big boys.
Jesus.
2 a day.
Oh my God.
So, but now I'm on a Chemex, and I used to think it was the douchiest.
Oh, I don't like Chemexes.
I know, I didn't either, but I tried it.
Yeah.
The flavor is supreme. It is it's a better flavor.
It does taste good. Yeah. So, I mean, I just was on Wirecutter for the last few days, looking at their reviews of espresso machines. And I'm just like, will I do it? Like, will I pull that trigger? I actually can't at the moment because I can't justify spending that money. Like the bare minimum is like $500. But I love espresso.
You're going to get the big dog, like the Ford engine. Clack, 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 clamp, clamp. I know there's something. Espressos do rock the house, and I have been to Italy, and that blew my mind how much espresso is flowing in that place, man.
Oh my God. And I just think it's like the best treatment of coffee. Do you know what I mean? Coffee is so abused in this country.
Yeah.
And it's such a fabulous substance. And then it's like, well, you want to do it justice. It's like, you want to remember in that stupid movie Avatar, they would kill something, they'd be like, thank you. They were ripping off Native American culture, I guess. But I do feel that way about coffee beans. I'm like, these are my magic friends. I don't want to just slam them into lukewarm water and not do them justice. So this is all me trying to justify buying an expensive coffee machine. Cause I also love cause I'm a writer, work from home, blah, blah. It's good to walk out and get coffee and say hi to the people in the coffee shop, and that's all really nice. But at the same time, I'm like, maybe it's time.
For me, maybe it's time to get the clackety clack.
Wouldn't you be so impressed though if in the background of this podcast you could hear me bam, 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 that, and I'd have a wooden stick so it wouldn't interrupt it. Yeah, it would just
be. And the steamer, the little nozzle with the steam thing, and froth it out, frothy froth.
Maybe for my 50th birthday or something, or I don't know, it should be a, how sometimes women, if they have a baby, they get a push present, which is such a terrible, do you know about that? They get a ring or a necklace or something.
Yes, it's an engagement thing, but they knocked out a baby. Yeah.
But I know I don't want to have a baby, so instead of that, I might just be okay, you need to get me a Gaggia. Get me a Gaggia.
Is that the Mercedes Benz?
Actually, that's one of the lower, it's a very great, a functional one. I think it's the number 2 rated one. It's $650 or something. But no, the sky is the limit. If you want to get an espresso machine, you can absolutely go for broke. You can buy one absolutely no problem for $3,000.
$3,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
Car.
Yes, it's a car. I know, but it's I would never, but people do such insane things. Okay, Chemex is really gaining popularity, and I hear you about, the flavor. It does well with flavor, but it's just it gets cold so fast, and it's just so fussy with all the paper and the pouring, and then there's the little French, you said you use a French press. That's what I'm using at the moment.
Always good.
And I think there's just something so classic about it, you know?
Oh.
It's like, I feel like that's how people have been having coffee like that for, you know, hundreds of thousands of years.
Oh, I always love the simplest design. And you're talking to a guy that had like 3 or 4 French presses, but I just got my blood work done. And he was like, Rob, your cholesterol. But I was hammering pepperoni like crazy. I went through a pepperoni during the pandemic, like every Friday we would do pizza night and I would get double pepperoni. And I was like, usually I get like 1 slice of pepperoni. I was down in like 3 and I would just more pepperoni with like, and I couldn't even wipe off the grease. You know, you usually get the
like on bread or
no, on pizza. I would just get pepperoni pizza like every weekend, and then a double espresso. So my doctor was like, you don't need cholesterol medicine, but if you keep going this route, you will get cholesterol medicine.
Oh my God.
So I was like, he was like, you got to get filtered coffee. And he suggested Chemex.
Yeah.
So that's why I got into the Chemex. I'm telling you, it's great. I know you got to run here soon. But what about the little guy? I always see that Italy, my brother-in-law has that you could do it on the stove where they have the coffee.
Yeah.
Bottom.
Yeah, I know exactly. That's the one that my family traditionally uses.
Yeah, that looks like the jam. Like I used to watch this book and he would do pasta and then he would do this. He would have one of those jams and he would like, let me show you how to make the most delicious espresso in the world.
Yeah, a little stove top. And it does work out. Like you get the crema and everything. Yeah, those are lovely. There's just something about the, I don't know, like using the gas and everything that I feel like is fussy. I don't know, the simplicity of the French press, like it's just so appealing to me.
You just got to push it down.
Yeah.
Just like,
push it down, drink it down, take off.
And I know you got to run.
Yeah, Rob, but it's been so fun chatting with you.
So fun chatting with you.
You're the best.
I'm going to ask you one quick question.
Yeah.
Okay, what was the last, what do you listen? I wonder, do you like U2? What's the word on the street in Ireland? Are you
U2? Oh my God.
Is that whack? Is that sus? Is that played out? Or do you like, no, we stand by these dudes?
Oh, I mean, first of all, there's like a running joke in Ireland that like we see Bono everywhere all the time. Cause like everyone's like, yeah, I just saw Bono again. Oh my God, I went to the supermarket, fucking Bono was there. Like they're all over there, you know, it's such a small country. And you know, I'm a bit too young, like I missed their heyday. So I don't really listen to their music.
It's almost like seeing People magazine. Yeah, you see this guy.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, they're not bad. I don't know.
Do you know about Thin Lizzy?
Yeah, love Thin Lizzy. Oh my God. My dad was a huge Thin Lizzy fan and saw them, you know, live, and like Rory Gallagher and all those incredible guitar players. That was, yeah. I mean, I listened to Thin Lizzy the other night, actually. Me and my friend were driving home from a show and he was like, let's put on some Irish music. I was like, okay, Thin Lizzy, the Cranberries. I was so happy.
That's it. That's all I needed. You're the coolest. Check out, tell everybody on the train I love them. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Congrats. This is no joke. Knocking a couple of these out.
Well, I can't wait to read yours. And the thing is, like, just do a couple pages whenever you can. Like, it's not that bad once you like keep going.
Oh, thank you, Maeve. Yeah, I loved how yours was structured. Anybody listening, I have a short attention span. It's all short stories stacked on top of each other, and then it makes sense at the end and has a really cool message about love. Check it all out. Check out Maeve Higgins out there. She's got to run. She's doing it, and I appreciate it.
I'm popping and locking.
You're popping and locking. Never get depressed. Just, you know, put on the movie Beat Street. Check out some popping and locking. And put on some electric beats. I'm not talking about Run DMC. There's Egyptian Lover. There's what was that? Kraftwerk.
Oh yeah.
Put on some Kraftwerk.
All right.
And just get it loose, and you'll be all right, Maeve.
Nice.
All right.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah. Peace, love. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
discovering truth is not a question of intelligence. It's intelligence, no intellectual ability or intellectual intelligence at all. Because if it were, I mean, there's so many people with really sharp intellects. You know, they have such skill at comprehending or going to the point. So if that was all that it took, there'd be many Buddhas who came through the intellectual artery or vein.